everybody. Thanks for having me. This is lovely. It's been really fun today. Thank you all for being awesome. Thank you.
Are you doing?
Welcome.
I should introduce myself. My name's Steve Weintraub. I founded the website Collider, which has at least 5 readers a month. So I say thank you.
I think you're over 50 by now, honestly.
Honestly, when my mom reads it, I'm just happy.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
great.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
I have a ton of questions, but I also want to open it up to the. Oh wow, there's a lot of people who want to ask you questions. Let me go through some of mine real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
What do you think would surprise people to learn about being an actor in Hollywood?
I think it'd be surprising how not glamorous a lot of the day-to-day stuff is. You know, like it's nice to get recognized and to come out and have people know who you are, but the actual day-to-day work of being an actor is kind of a grind and it has a lot of different types of difficulties, and it doesn't feel, as glamorous from the inside, I think.
Do you feel like you post too much on Instagram?
That I do?
Yeah,
Not anymore.
I'm being very sarcastic. It's like once a year for you now.
I know. I'm sorry, man. I know you were relying on it for a long time. No, I'm kidding. I used to, and I was really into Instagram, and I never did that thing where I hired somebody else to run my site for me and make sure that they're all posting. Nothing wrong with that, but I never did that. I like it to be stuff that's really just mine. But all of being online a little too much started to feel overwhelming, and so I just kind of took a step back from all of it.
If someone has never seen anything you've done, what is the first thing you'd like them watching and why?
I probably would say, they've never seen anything I've done?
Anything.
Oh, I see. Gosh, I've never gotten that question, and it's really interesting. I do think that there's something about, here's why that's a complicated question, because there's something about Kirk from Gilmore Girls that...
Wait, I'm sorry.
That's how you pander.
Right, no, I'm sorry, but you were on Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
But there's something about that character that I feel like was really sort of the first thing that people got to know me from, and that sort of launched my career. And there's something about the essence of that character that I'm proud of and that I think lives on in a way. So in some ways, it's almost got to be the main thing. That said, I like that I've done a lot of different types of stuff in my career. And when you first asked the question, I did this TV show, The Terminalist, on Amazon.
Sure.
A couple years ago that it's so different from what people normally see me doing, and it's kind of in some ways more the type of stuff I'd like to be moving into as I get older and want to keep playing different types of roles. So yeah, I don't know exactly, but I just always want to be known. I always want people to see me as something a little different from what they saw the last time.
If you could go back in time and do one more day on any past project, what would you pick and why?
Gosh, I'm not sure. I'm trying to sure. It's fun. Here's the thing about doing. Here's the thing about working on bigger budget stuff. I know I'm taking a left turn from your question, but there was one scene I was really unhappy with in Guardians 2, and we were able to do reshoots. Like most movies, you don't get you can't do that. You can't, I do a lot of indie movies and stuff, and you just don't get reshoots. So I'm fortunate that a couple things that maybe haven't always been my favorite. I'm gonna have to think about that one. That one puts me on the spot a little bit.
I've thrown too many curveballs at you. You did 2 episodes of Angel and played 2 different characters.
I did.
What do you remember about making that show and being,
Well, what I remember was that I was up for one of the lead characters on that show. When it was getting made, I was I tested for the character of Doyle, who was one of the leads in the beginning of the show, and I didn't get it, even though I got very, very close. So then I felt like they were asking me back because they wanted to kind of find something for me, you know? And first it was a demon character, which was one of my first experiences with like contacts, and someone's familiar with my work over here, I can tell. And doing a lot of prosthetic makeup and stuff like that. So I remember that. And then I remember coming back again and doing another character that was maybe gonna return and be a regular, and it just didn't work out, I think, for a variety of reasons. So mostly when I think of Angel, I think of like, it's kind of the one that got away, in a way.
Completely. What do you think, speaking of Gilmore Girls, what do you think would surprise people to learn about the making of Gilmore Girls?
Just how grueling it was. I mean, it was like, it's such a fun show to watch, and nothing is any of the people I was working with. They're like great artists, great professionals, but it was not a fun show to work on. We had very, very long hours, and everything, because of the nature of the style of the show, how quickly we spoke, how sort of literary it was, for lack of a better word. Like, everything had to be verbatim all the time, and we were doing over 10 pages a day, which, if you know anything about the industry, about the movie, television industry, 10 pages a day is insane. Like, it's rare that any show would have a 10-page day in a week, much less averaging that every single day, which is what we did on Gilmore Girls. So I really do think that would be the most surprising thing, was how hard it was.
Well, one of the things about Amy and Daniel is, as you mentioned, they write a lot of dialogue. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious for you, what was it like, like having to learn all of that? And did they do a lot of rewrites, or was it more like you had time to actually learn stuff?
They didn't do, once we got our script, it was locked. So within whatever rewrites they did, but they, once the script came up, but we didn't have a ton of time and to learn those words. Fortunately, I was a younger man. In some ways, dialogue memorization is a little bit harder now than it was like when I was in my mid-20s and right out of acting school. I also think that they did a really good job. They cast a lot of theater people, and people with a lot of theater experience, and I think theater actors, their muscle for memorization and learning lots of dialogue is a little sharper sometimes. So I think that it was just part of the job. It was part of the gig. I can certainly tell you that after the show ended, I did a lot of auditions where the casting director would say, "Whoa, slow down." You don't have, like, I'm sorry, it's a habit.
What are your thoughts on the way the show ended?
I have nothing but warmth for how it ended, because in the original run of the show, Amy didn't get the ending that she wanted. She wasn't the showrunner for the 7th and final season in the original incarnation of the show, and so getting able to do it the way, and she has such a singular voice as an artist, and getting able to do it the way that she wanted to do it, that was all that was interesting to me. I don't experience it as a viewer or as a fan in the same way that other people do. I experience it more from the inside, and I know that Amy was the creator of that show, and so it needed to be done the way she wanted it done, and it was.
My most anticipated film of this year is Superman.
Mine too.
Yeah, cannot wait. You are playing Maxwell Lord in the film. What can you tease about? I'm curious. What can you tease about the movie and your character?
Nothing really. I wish I could. I can tell you that the movie's going to be awesome. I read it. I can't wait for an audience to experience it. The actors are just exquisite. Honestly, so good, and particularly David and Rachel at the top of the bill are really, really sharp and awesome. My role, I'm still unclear of how much I'm even allowed to talk about. I don't even think I've been it has not been, my involvement has not been denied, nor has it been announced officially. I think I'm sort of a no comment on that part of it.
I was going to say that there's another trailer that's going to come out in the not so distant future. Maybe you're in that.
Doubtful.
Right. One of the things that James has talked about is that whoever is a part of the DC universe is going to play the character in like movies, TV, the animated movies. Like they're going to make it very cohesive, even the video games. Hypothetically, if you're in Superman, what is it like to possibly be playing a character like this for many years?
Yes, if I were to hypothetically play a character like Maxwell Lord, I would be very happy about that. I find him a very, very compelling figure, and
in the comics, of course.
In the comics,
yeah.
And hypothetically, I think I would have an interesting take on the character that I think people would be interested in, and it would be very cool to explore that in other realms in the universe.
I'm so curious. Your brother did such an amazing job with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. What was he like? Is there any difference with him on set in Superman versus the way he was on Guardians, and now that he has, I mean, probably a lot more confidence knowing like that he knows what fans want?
Yeah, I think that he's sort of he's always been a very, very prepared director, you know, and almost to a maniacal a point where he's really on top of every little thing that goes on in his movies. He's more prepared before getting to set than I think anyone would know or I mean, like, not just the most of any director I've ever worked with, but a lot of the most experienced actors say, I've never worked with somebody who like already has so much done before we get to set. That's kind of his way of working. And I think it's one of the really cool things about DC is that I think he sort of figured out his method of working in a way that really worked for him, particularly on Suicide Squad and Guardians 3, so that then when he started to take over DC, he's able to structure things in a way so that there was a lot of the process was kind of streamlined. And I think that it's a really, you know, it's a cliche to say a well-oiled machine, but so far it really is. I think his movies are really meticulously sort of organized.
The thing that I'm most excited about with DC is that him and Peter, who run DC, have basically said they're not going to greenlight anything unless the script is perfect. And that, for me, just reassures me that what's coming from DC is going to be, I don't want to curse, frickin' awesome.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I mean, I've loved the things that I've read and the things that I've seen, and I know that you know, there's such good buzz even around the things I haven't read, like Supergirl, you know, Woman of Tomorrow, and
Clayface.
And Lanterns is like, and supposedly they're just like really all kind of humming along right now and cooking. So I'm pretty excited about it too.
I swear I'm going to open it up to audience questions soon. I promise. But I have to bring up Creature Commandos because I loved it. And you voice G.I. Robot and Weasel.
Yes.
If you haven't seen Creature Commandos, absolutely push play.
Check it out. It's awesome.
It's on Max. I'm so curious for you. What is it like when you are getting ready to voice characters and doing voiceover work? How are you, like, how early on are you breaking down like how you want it to sound? You know, like, take us through your process a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's totally different, obviously, for these two characters because Weasel is such a unique kind of thing, and I had done Weasel voices, Weasel's like noises, and sounds that Weasel would make in the first Suicide Squad movie, which I literally did from watching YouTube videos of Weasels making noises, and the good thing is that there's no nobody's going to be really checking my work there. It's not like, except for maybe I'm sure there's some nerd at some convention somewhere who's going to be like, the Weasel doesn't actually make that sound that you make, but no, it's like I just have to it has to filter through my interpretation of how it's going to sound right, and I can then truthfully portray the character. So for Weasel, I had done that. It's just like, it's a strange thing to be not using words. I'm using grunts and shrieks and screams and purrs and hisses and all things like that, and that's my toolkit in trying to tell this character's story. G.I. Robot was different. I wasn't sure how I wanted to do it. I had an idea for it. I remember just sending. I listened to some old newsreels because I liked the idea of like the news on the march kind of voice to be what they might use as a template, and did my version of that in a couple of different ways, and just recorded it, did voice, recordings on my iPhone and sent them to James and said, here's a couple things I'm playing with, what do you like? And he's like, I really like that second one, and that's it. And then I just kind of try to work on being able to, you need a sort of a touchstone for each character so that you can sort of have a phrase or two that you say that drops the voice in, and I just make sure I work on what that is and how to incorporate that anytime I step into a booth.
That got greenlit for a season 2.
Yes.
Have you heard anything?
Only that they're working on it. I know that that's not. I think they wanted to keep it on a pretty fast track, but it's still, even once it was greenlit, then it still needs to be written. So they're, I'm sure, working hard at making it awesome.
You've done a lot of motion capture work in the Marvel movies. For people that are not familiar with what motion capture is, because I just talk about motion capture, but I realize there's a lot of. I'm just curious. Does anyone raise your hand if you've never heard of motion capture? Okay, we got one person. Apparently, maybe I don't have to explain it. Talk a little.
Well, I can tell. It may be different if you change it to motion reference, which is actually what I do for Rocket. Which is I also did motion capture for Rocket, but it's different. For those Marvel movies, that you kind of have to find a different system for each character depending on how large they are and kind of what how humanoid their faces are, and so it was different methods. We did, for young Rocket in the cages, in the third movie, we were able to do actual motion capture where we've got the suits on with the lights and the little colored balls and everything, and they're sort of really digitally capturing everything. Otherwise, we would do motion reference for Rocket, which really is literally me just kind of doing a performance as the character that animators are then using as a rough draft when they start to animate how Rocket is moving, what his hands are doing, where he's looking. But they're doing that more sort of literally. They're not doing it digitally because it just wouldn't look good if they did that digitally. They still have to build Rocket from the ground up, which is always why it's always a little bit of a. It's always peeved me a little bit that we didn't get more of a due for. We got some love from the awards people, but we never won anything. And it's I don't think they get how much harder it is to make Rocket than it is to make so many other digital characters. Anyway, but
I
awards
agree.
are stupid, so who cares?
I've always said that it's the nomination that matters, not who wins.
Sure. No, it's true. I mean, that's true, and even more so, even the nomination doesn't matter that much if it's good and it's telling the story and people like it. Who cares?
100%. You were in 3 Guardians of the Galaxy movies. There are 3 movies. How would you rank them? Or do you have personal? Do you have a personal?
I don't, because it's sort of like I was saying before. It's I don't experience them in the same way that a fan or an audience member does. I think of them as the one that we shot in London and had no idea whether it was going to be a success or not, and then the two that we shot in Atlanta, one that we shot during COVID, so didn't get to see people socially much when we weren't working, and the other one was it's they all feel a little different in the casts that were in them and what the set was like and things like that. I don't really know. I think the third one might be my favorite, but also I have the biggest part in the third one, so maybe it's just that. I don't know. I think I would probably rank them 3, 1, 2, but it also depends on the day. And there's times when I see 2 that I love so many things in it.
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah. I believe there's at least 5 people that want to ask questions, so let's get started. I'm underselling the 5.
I'm almost ashamed of my question now that given all the history and everything you've gone through. I don't mean to disregard all of your projects that you're passionate about or alleged current ones, but my question is regarding Gilmore Girls. You
Sure.
said that it was very tough and grueling, but what do you think was the silver lining in it? Like your favorite part of like the variety of his jobs or your coworkers or anything like that?
It's more than a silver lining. I mean, it's all worth it when you make a good piece of work. I mean, the idea that we were able to make this show that told this wonderful story with interesting characters that people obviously adore, based on, the proof is in the pudding, the longevity is there. I have people coming up to my table today who weren't born when the first episode started airing when it was on originally. So obviously the show has meant a lot to a lot of people, and that dwarfs any amount of lots of things are hard to shoot. So it doesn't, I would never even want to, tarnish the experience by thinking that it was negative. It was just that was notable about it, that it was particularly grueling. But I love the people that I worked with. I don't get to see a lot of them as often as I would like, but I still keep in touch with people, and it's always good to reconnect. But I loved doing the show. I'm one of the few who are like, I would do it again probably if they came, if there was more, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I was just going to say real quick, it's just more about just to get into what you said. It's people don't realize the hours that people on TV work, and they're already long hours, but a show that's shooting 10 pages a day, those hours are probably 16-hour days.
Yeah, for sure.
And a normal TV thing might be 10 or 11, maybe 12, but not what you probably did.
Yeah. And then you work from, and then Friday, you get weekends off, but Friday you end up working basically till sunrise on Saturday, and then Monday you got to be at work before the sun comes up, and so your weekends get dwarfed, and it's crazy.
Friday.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Firstly, I really like your shirt.
Thank you.
Second, so Kirk is a very Lynchian character. Do you have a favorite David Lynch project?
Yes. I think it's funny to just state as fact Kirk is a very Lynchian character. We all know that. We've all agreed that Kirk's a very Lynchian character, right? It's I had no idea until just now, until you just said that. Although I guess, there is the, Eraserhead reference. But I think Mulholland Drive is one of the greatest movies ever made. Full stop.
Oh,
so that's my favorite Lynch movie, although I love his work in general. We could use a lot more David Lynch's in the world.
Yes, I completely agree. And by the way, if you've never seen Mulholland Drive, fantastic, and you can keep debating it until, there's a lot of debate.
It's so good.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Hi. My question is, if you could have any role, what would your dream role be? Play any character.
Is it Maxwell Lord?
Yeah, that would be a good way to answer that question, actually. Because I don't, it's a funny thing about being an actor is once you try to point your career towards something specific, it's it doesn't. It's always going to take you in another direction, Right. So I try to be I try not to covet things as an actor. It's good for my soul to not want to do something. That said, I look forward to in my career right now, playing more characters who are my age and are, who more, doing a little more drama than I've done, I think would be nice. And I'd love to play a villain, a good villain would be fun. Cool. But yeah, I don't know. I try to keep my slate blank so that I don't. There's a lot of bitterness in my industry.
Gotcha.
And so when you want something specific and then you don't get it, and you get bitter. That's not a good way to navigate the profession.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Hi. So I know you're going to be talking a lot about Gilmore Girls today, probably, but do you know how many jobs Kirk has had, and does he have a favorite one?
I get that question all the time. My new answer to that is that I think being a filmmaker is Kirk's
I was
favorite
just
job.
I was just
'Cause
saying
that's
that.
what I actually do in real
Yeah.
life. So I would say that those were definitely very, very fun. The films by Kirk. So I do not know what the exact title is, what the exact number is for jobs. It depends a little bit on how you count it. If you count only jobs that we've seen, or if you also
Okay.
count jobs that he's talked about that aren't on camera. But somewhere someone has a running tally that I will
Probably,
leave,
yeah.
I will leave it up to the internet.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your question. And
Hi, how's it going? So for starters, I feel I should probably echo the Lynchian thing because I'm dressed as Dale Cooper today.
Love
But second of all, I'm actually a writer myself who loves working with actors. And as an actor yourself, what's kind of your process for working with writers? Like, do you have any boundaries that you have to set? Is there like a creative back and forth? What's that look like?
Yeah, it's a different thing when you're working with a writer creator. Like I have done a lot in my career, either with Amy Sherman Palladino or Daniel Palladino, or my brother, people who are writing, but then they're also either directing or they're being hands-on producing. Because in those cases, you're really talking to them more as director creators than you are writers. But for the most part, the writing, I've worked a lot with writers who you don't want to mess with it and you just don't touch it. My brother James, his scripts are really, really good, and they're really honed before we even start. So like Creature Commandos is a great example where most of it is already, when I read it the first time through, it almost is verbatim. That's the way it ends up. When you finally see the show. Gilmore Girls was the same way. Everything was totally verbatim. I have worked with writers who are either a little greener or a little more freestyle, or they want to have more sort of improvisational stuff. And then you just kind of have to talk to them about what the through line of the scene is. You want to make sure that you know what the beats are that you have to get in each scene, and know that, hey, we need to make sure that these bits of information get told, and we need to know that we need to have these beats happen among the characters, and then you can fluctuate a little bit within that. But in some ways, what I'm trying to do is give you a 2-minute answer to what has been a lifelong craft process.
Sure.
Yeah. So like it really is. It can be very complicated how you put all those things together, but also yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
thanks for the question. And
Hi, I want to say thank you for coming here to Indiana Comic-Con.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
But my question was, after working under Marvel and working under DC and working for all your other projects, who was your favorite brand to work under?
Well, I mean, I like money. Yeah. Can we get some applause? Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like it's different. It's like so. The truth is that like from movie to movie, there's way more similarities in working for the directors than there are in working for the studios. So it's like, even though Suicide Squad and Superman are DC and Guardians is Marvel, since it was my brother James doing all of them, those are more similar than they are different, because usually it's the director who's kind of setting the tone on a project and who basically is responsible for how things feel on set. I've liked working with both Marvel and DC very much. They've been very good to me. Disney was very good to me, and so Warner Brothers has been good to me too. So I don't know, once you start to get higher up, it's like it's harder for an actor like me to even tell the difference, other than they both seem to be pretty on top of their their stuff, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And
Oh, sorry. So for Guardians of the Galaxy, when you were Kraglin, did you have to practice doing the whistling? And if so, could you do it for us right now?
Yes and no. Actually, I get the whistle started. I do a little. I start to do a little bit of a whistle, and then our sound effects team sort of takes over at that point. I do not have the breath control to do that much whistling all at once.
are you saying this is movie magic?
You know what's funny is I'm pretty sure Rooker is convinced that he's doing all of the whistling for Yondu, and I assure you he is not.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Hello. My question is, I was wondering if you can ask your brother to cast Alan Richardson as Batman.
Who is it you guys?
Do you ever see Reacher?
Oh.
Big dude?
Okay.
Alan Rickman? And not Rickman, I'm sorry.
Oh, right,
Richmond.
Right. I think I know who you're talking about.
He's very large.
Big, swole Batman, you know?
Me telling my brother who to cast in Batman would mean as much as you telling my brother who to cast in Batman, which is very little, I'm sorry to say.
Thank you.
Hi. So behind the scenes for Gilmore Girls, how did Kirk end up becoming the fully fleshed out, named, recurring character that we get to see him as later, when he started off as sort of a smaller character very early on in the process?
Well, in 2025, it's a lot more common to have a TV season completely written before you start the first episode. But network TV, I think even now, I'm not sure, but they still don't do that, and we definitely didn't do that back then when we started in 2000. So we would only be a couple of episodes ahead. We'd be, the week they were airing episode 2, we'd be shooting episode 4 or 5 maybe, So you were only a little bit behind. Kirk just came on as the DSL installer on the second episode of the first season.
DSL.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
I'm showing my age with that one, I know. Does anybody know? I mean, some of you definitely know who it is, but who doesn't know what DSL is? It's a lot. Yeah, I love it. Anyway, but yeah, so
But we should say it has to do with your phone line
Yeah.
and getting internet through your phone line,
Yeah.
and it was not fast. But it was a really big deal when it happened.
Felt fast. At the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, so he was a DSL installer, and I think that it was a fun little scene, and it was funny, but I was a co-star, which meant I came on to do one day of work, and that was supposed to be it. And a couple episodes later, they decided to hire me again to do something else, and over the course of a few episodes, I think that Amy really liked what I was bringing to what she was writing. Now, we didn't talk about that. We were more, our communication was her writing, and then I'm showing up to set and doing it, and it's kind of working, and based on where she starts to steer the character, I can then start to kind of meet her there and play it that way. So I do think that over the course of the first 6 to 10 episodes that we saw Kirk in that first season, we started to kind of figure out who exactly he was. But he wasn't right at the beginning. It took some shaping.
All right. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks.
I want to do a quick follow-up. When did you know that you were going to be like a regular? Like, did Amy pull you aside and say, by the way, you're now like a part of the show?
No, not really. I mean, I thought the joke was going to wear thin in the first season. I did 11 episodes, and I honestly felt like almost every one I thought might be my last one. Like, I did not know, and they did not, I wasn't under contract. They just kept, hey, they're hiring you for another one. Hey, they're hiring you for another one, which was great. And then around the middle of the second season, it seemed like the show was doing pretty well, and they were establishing my character as really being part of the fabric of the show. But I wanted to be a series regular. I'm an actor. You want to reach the the place in your profession where you feel like you need to go. And at the end of the second season of Gilmore Girls, towards the end of that season, I was asked to test for 2 different television shows. And a test is when you test for a show, basically you have to sign a 6-year contract. So if I had gotten one of those shows and then it goes to air, they might have had to take me off of Gilmore Girls, and I would have never been able to do it again. And so it wasn't really until I had those test deals that I think Amy was like, we can't lose him from the show. And so, is there a bird of prey in here somewhere? Anyway, yeah. So I actually tested for one of the shows, and then before I was able to test for the other one, they came in and said, "Hey, they want to make you a series regular." So then I became a regular.
So it's so interesting because if you hadn't tested, it might have continued the way it was.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It very well may have. I mean, at some point I might have been like, guys, come on.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Completely.
Yeah. It's hard to tell.
Thank you for your question, and
Hey, so I wanted to know what's the process like when you are cast in one of James's projects? Because, is it a thing of he comes to you and asks you, hey, I think you'd be good for this role, or do you go through like the regular standard casting process? Because I feel like every single one of the roles that you've played were just like, it was like he wrote them for you.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and it's a little complicated because particularly now, because he's also more of
Head
a
of
boss
DC.
at DC,
Yeah.
so he's more involved in, like he I don't even know how to describe it exactly. But for the most part, he talks to me about projects and what he has in mind, and asks if I'm interested, and we talk about it. And he does kind of write for me in my voice for certain characters. He doesn't do that all the time. Sometimes it's after the fact. Like I don't think he wrote G.I. Robot thinking that I was going to play that character, but also knew that if I was going to do Weasel, I wanted to play a character who spoke words also, and so it's not, I generally don't go through the same audition process, but mostly because he picks his own actors a lot. But then there's still a hiring process, so it's still like he's not negotiating, and so there's still things that need to be worked out. And I think for the most part, everything he's wanted me to do, I have. But there was 1 or 2 things where it got a little dicier, where I'm not sure that it would, it could have gone. So it's like, oh, you know what, I'm not going to be able to do this one, and go another route. Like I know, for example, that there's way earlier in his career, there's a role in Slither that I probably would have played, but I couldn't. And so, it just depends.
Cool. Thank you.
thank you for the question.
If you can't see my Ken Jennings shirt, I'm a big Jeopardy fan.
Oh, yeah.
And recently you just crushed it on Celebrity Jeopardy. And and rocked a similar cardigan too. But with your full career, what about the Jeopardy process, whether it's preparation or the production, stood out to you or maybe made you a little nervous or excited?
Well, I just had to try it, right?
Yeah.
When they invited me to be on the show, I'm like, you gotta check it out and see how it is. The buzzer's no joke. It's not easy to get the buzzer in right at the right time. And in my next game, there's more times than I was trying to buzz in and I didn't get in. But it was super interesting. It's like something on my bucket list. I always thought I think I'd be pretty good. But Celebrity Jeopardy is a little easier than regular Jeopardy, so that made it easier to say yes to. And I just thought, I'm like, I'll check it out. I wonder how much nerves goes into play and all that kind of stuff. And for the most part, I was not very nervous. For whatever reason, I'm like, look, I'm either going to know it or I'm not. And if I know it, I'll say it. If I don't, I won't. Anyway. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, good job.
Thanks.
Thank you for the question.
Hi. I recently watched Creature Commando, and I watched all of the Suicide Squad films when they first came out, and I always loved how hilarious of a character Weasel was. And so I was just wondering if Weasel was made through CGI or special effects, and if it was special effects, how was it like going through the process before filming of makeup and prosthetics and all of that?
Yeah, Weasel is 100% motion capture to CGI. So basically, I'm on every time you see Weasel on set, minus a couple of I try to never ever do my own stunts. But no, that basically whenever you see Weasel, I'm there in the motion capture suit, and I'm doing all of Weasel's movements, and they're digitally capturing the performance, and then animators are building the Weasel on top of that performance. So yeah, it's all built in the VFX post.
Okay.
But I'm there doing it, and I'm really licking that glass. So.
Thank you.
So, do you remember Kirk in a Box? And if so, what was the process of filming that?
Do I need to remember it?
That's fair enough.
I do remember it, yeah. It's not often that you're suspended in a plexiglass box over an empty street, and you're like, I don't recall that. Did I do that?
How did I get here?
In my younger days, it was like college. You know what I remembered about that was that that I was up there, and for those of you who don't know, I'm suspended in this plexiglass box because I think I'm who's the comedian? I forget the comedian. David Blaine. I'm trying to be David Blaine. All I remember was that they had to get a forklift to get me in and out of it, which was quite an ordeal. So between setups, they were like, do you want to come down? It's just going to take a long time and then a long time to get back up. And I'm like, I guess I'll just sit up there. And I'm wearing like a leotard or something. So there's no, I didn't have my phone with me or anything like that. So I was just sitting up there in that box for hours. It was kind of surreal because it is plexiglass, and I'm like looking out over the Warner Brothers lot. But good times.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and you are going to be our last question.
Okay. I have a question from my girlfriend. What was your favorite part of Stars Hollow, or favorite place?
My favorite place? Well, I'll say this, that my favorite stuff to shoot on Gilmore Girls were when we would have these town hall meetings, and we would all pile into this tiny little structure, which was on the Warner Brothers lot, but it was Miss Patty's dance studio in Stars Hollow, and we'd have the town hall meetings there, and you can remove any of the walls for shooting, but it's still a small location to cram a bunch of people in. And those would usually be long nights. They'd put them on they'd often put them on Friday nights so that they could go until the sun came up on Saturday and not bother the next day's shooting. And at some point, everyone would get a little punch drunk, and some would get happy, some would get ornery, and often the whole cast was there, and Liz Torres and Sally Struthers would start singing old vaudeville show tunes and things like that, and those are some of my fondest memories of being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Ladies and gentlemen, Sean will be available. You're signing tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah, he'll be available downstairs signing and taking pictures in case anyone wants to talk further or meet you. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, Sean Gunn.
Thank you, guys.